theatre, I thought that the first thing was to try and create a group. To have a feeling that we are together and not separated. Here come the latecomers. To break the space that we've had, which was a very vertical space, and to try and make it more into a group. What I've asked everybody is to speak about what they think is characteristic of a group theatre. What are the differences of a group theatre? And I will start with what I personally have experienced, that when we make a performance as a group, we make the performance with and for the group. So it's not that we choose a theme or a text and then find the actors to interpret that text, but we start from the reality of the group, and it is as if the themes emerge from the group. And that is a very different way of working compared to what one finds in traditional or commercial theatre, concentrating and starting from the people that are part of the group. Then I've said that I will wish to be a little bit of discussion, and Miguel has promised that he will discuss with Eugenio, as he's done many times before, while Patricia will agree. Here we have Miguel Rubio of Eugenio Teatro from Peru. We have Patricia Ariza from La Candelaria. And behind we have Viviana from Teatro Residui, who is helping with the translation. Then we have Eugenio Barba from Odin Theater. Odin Theater from Denmark, believe it or not. Georges Bigot from Théâtre du Soleil from France. And then we've got Emanuela Filomena, who is helping George with the translation, who has also a group now in Bologna.
Yes.
Of students from the University of Bologna. Okay, so I will start with Miguel.
Gracias, Lidia.
Thank you.
Estoy muy feliz de estar en este nuevo momento del Odin.
I am very happy to be in this new moment of the Odin.
Cuando estuve hace 50 años celebrando el aniversario del Odin, yo pensé que era el final.
When I was at the 50th anniversary of the Odin, I thought it was the end.
Y me preparaba también para el final de mi grupo.
And I was also preparing for the end of my group.
Y ahora a los 60 años, verlos tan vitales.
And now with the 60-year anniversary, seeing them so full of life,
me pone una valla muy alta nuevamente.
They are putting a very high obstacle again.
Estoy feliz también de estar en este espacio, en este evento.
I'm also happy to be in this event.
Para repensar nuestro teatro.
To be able to think again about our theatre.
Siempre tengo algunos reparos cuando estoy en Europa.
I always have some problems when I am in Europe.
Porque hay una cierta tendencia a simplificar la América Latina.
Because there is a certain tendency of thinking generalized of Latin America.
¿Cómo decir siempre que no somos un continente portador de revoluciones?
Thinking that we are a continent which brings revolution.
Ni exotismo amazónico.
Amazonic exotism.
Y grupos folclóricos que se autoexotizan también.
And folkloric groups that also become exotic.
Sabemos todos que el teatro es una construcción cultural históricamente determinada.
We know, all of us, that theatre is a cultural result which is determined historically.
A mediados del siglo pasado,
In half through the century ago,
surge un nuevo momento en el teatro latinoamericano.
there is a new moment in the Latin American continent.
No porque se nos ocurrió a los grupos hacer algo nuevo, diferente.
Not because the group thought of doing something different.
Había un contexto
There was a context
que no podíamos eludir,
that we could not go away from,
que más bien nos impulsaba.
that was giving us the impulse.
Estoy pensando en mayo 68.
I'm thinking of May 68.
Estoy pensando en el boom de la literatura latinoamericana,
I'm thinking about the boom of Latin America narrative
en el nuevo cine brasilero,
and the new cinema from Brazil
en la canción popular chilena,
and the Chilean folkloric songs
en el cinema boliviano también Bucamao,
and the cinema also from Bolivia,
para no seguir la lista.
to not continue the list.
Era un momento en que la América Latina se miraba a su interior
It was a moment in which Latin America was looking at itself
y se planteaba la necesidad
and was having the necessity
de reinventarse.
of reinventing itself.
Es decir, un continente tan viejo
A continent which was so old
no puede reivindicar su historia del teatro
cannot revindicate the history of theatre
solamente desde los últimos 500 años, que son los años de la conquista.
only from the last 500 years, the year of the conquest.
Tenemos una historia muy antigua.
We have a very ancient history.
Tenemos teatralidades de culturas originarias
We have theatralities from the original people
que los cronistas no le pudieron dar nombre.
that those who make the chronicles were not able to give them a name.
Aquello que según ellos se parecía a la comedia, le pusieron comedia.
That which they thought was similar to comedy, they called it comedy.
Y aquello que sentían que era triste, le pusieron tragedia.
And that which they felt was sad, they called tragedy.
Y aquello que podía ser divertido, le pusieron comedia.
And what they thought was funny, they called...
Sin embargo, hay palabras quechuas
But despite this, there are words in Quechua
que nos hablan de calidad, de performatividades o de teatralidades originarias.
that speak to us of original theatricalities from the people, the original people.
Como por ejemplo Pukyay,
Like, for example, Rubio,
en quechua, cuya traducción es jugar.
in which it's in Quechua, and to translate it means to play.
Así se lee el teatro en otras lenguas.
This is how you say
Jugar, to play.
That's how you say it in other languages, to play.
Sainata,
Sainata,
enmascararse.
which means to put a mask on.
Taki, cantar y bailar.
To sing and dance.
El actor que danza, diría Eugenio.
The actor that dances, Eugenio says.
Esa noción ya existía entre nosotros.
This existed within us.
Hacia ese reconocimiento
To this recognition,
fuimos de alguna manera los grupos.
the groups arrived.
Pero eso no fue una realidad idílica ni romántica como podría haber sido la década del 70, ¿no?
But it was not a romantic, idyllic reality as it could have been seen in the 70s.
Pienso en el exilio.
I think of the exile.
Somos hijos del exilio también
We are also sons and daughters of exile
por la dictadura de esos años,
because of the dictatorships during those years,
del teatro en los campos de concentración.
of the theatre in the concentration camps.
Tengo la imagen de una maestra que sale de Córdoba con sus estudiantes a fundar un grupo.
I have the image of a woman teacher who goes from the university to make a group,
Se llama María Escudero.
which is called Maria Escudero.
Llegó a Lima
She arrived to Lima
haciendo autostop
with her autostop
y con su perro
and with her dog,
que se llamaba Arturo Huy.
and was called Arturo Huy.
¿Qué podría ser lo común a estos grupos
What
que
could be
giraban
common
hacia
to all
abajo?
these groups?
La cultura del grupo.
The culture of the group.
Comenzó a surgir el grupo como una categoría absolutamente nueva.
The group started to come out as a new reality,
Como un nuevo modo de producción.
like a new way of producing.
Lo que teníamos antes eran compañías de comedias españolas,
What we had before were companies of Spanish comedies
de zarzuela y opereta que pasaban por América Latina.
that were going past Latin America.
Pero el teatro del grupo
But the group theatre
surge justo en ese momento,
comes out in this moment,
como una respuesta a esas compañías.
like an answer to these companies.
Al lado de ese teatro del grupo,
Beside this group theatre,
de esa nueva manera de pensar el teatro,
of this new way of thinking theatre,
se da la creación colectiva de la que ya nos habló Patricia.
we have the collective creation that Patricia talked about before.
La creación colectiva no es un método,
The collective creation is not a method,
no es un estilo,
it's not a style,
no es una propuesta estética,
it is not an aesthetic proposal,
es una respuesta política.
it is a political answer
Desde el no saber,
from the not knowing.
los que estábamos en las escuelas
Those of us who were in the schools,
renunciábamos a ellas
we gave them up
porque sentíamos que el teatro hegemónico no tenía nada que decirnos.
because we felt that the hegemonic theatre had nothing to say to us.
Había un nuevo espectador
There was a new spectator
que reclamaba protagonismo,
that wanted to be the protagonist,
nuevos espacios para teatralizar,
that they wanted new spaces to theatricalize,
los espacios de las escuelas,
which were the spaces of schools,
los mercados,
of markets,
los atrios de las iglesias,
in the patios of the churches.
cualquier espacio se hacía teatrable porque había otros espectadores.
Any space that would be able to be theatre because there were other spectators.
Ávidos de no ser telón de fondo de otras historias.
To have the habits of other stories, of other,
Sino de ser protagonistas de sus historias.
of being protagonists, they were coming from the habits of not being protagonists in their own stories.
Me refiero a esos personajes que aparecían como telón de fondo
I'm talking about those characters that were like on the back of the
en
curtain,
los dramas ajenos. Dramas ajenos.
that were like foreign, they were on their way.
Ese espectador ha sido un agente activo de cambio en los grupos.
This spectator has been an active maker of the change in the groups.
No ha sido un espectador pasivo que se sentaba a escuchar.
It was not a passive spectator that was just sitting to listen.
De esa relación entre el grupo como categoría
In this relationship between the group
y la creación colectiva
and the collective creation,
surge un nuevo actor.
there is a new actor coming up.
Y cuando digo actor, digo actriz.
And when I'm saying actor, I mean actress as well.
No encuentro la palabra inclusiva todavía, pero necesaria.
I still don't find the inclusive word, but it's necessary.
La diferencia de este nuevo actor
The difference of this new actor
es que es un actor que se compromete desde el inicio sobre lo que dice y hace en el escenario.
it is an actor that is engaged in what they are saying and doing on the stage.
Es un actor que cultiva su oficio.
It is an actor that is cultivating his craft.
Es un actor testigo de su tiempo.
It is an actor which is present in the present,
A diferencia de un actor o una actriz que recibe un libreto
which is different from an actor or an actress that receives a libretto, a text,
y le dicen apréndete la letra
and says, learn the text,
y no te choques con los muebles.
and
No te choques con los muebles.
don't bump into the furniture,
Me refiero a las escenografías
the
dadas, ¿no es
set, the
cierto?
set around.
Esas son para mí las tres patas de esa mesa. Es una mesa de tres patas.
I
Teatro.
think these are for me the three legs of the table.
Lo que caracterizaría a esa moderna tradición del teatro latinoamericano.
What would characterize this modern tradition of Latin American theater.
Como dice el historiador Eric Hobsbawm,
As the historian Eric Hobsbawm,
las tradiciones comienzan en algún momento.
traditions start at some point.
Y en la América Latina surge una moderna tradición
And in Latin America, a new tradition starts
a mediados del siglo pasado.
and then halfway through the last century.
Venimos de ahí,
We come from that,
pasamos el siglo.
and we go over the centuries.
Y esa tradición tiene maestros fundadores también.
And this tradition has funding teachers.
Tenemos a Atahualpa del Chopo, por ejemplo, un maestro uruguayo
We have Atahualpa del Chopo, who is from Uruguay,
que llevó Brecht a Latinoamérica.
who brought Brecht to Latin America.
Bertolt Brecht fue posiblemente el autor dramático europeo más montado en la América Latina en el siglo pasado.
Bertolt Brecht was the dramaturg that was most put up in Latin America in the last century.
Así como Eugenio es posiblemente quien más nos haya influido con su propuesta de antropología teatral.
And it's like Eugenio has also marked deeply with his theater proposals.
Santiago García,
Santiago Garcia
del grupo La Candelaria,
of La Candelaria,
mi entrañable maestro,
my very dear master,
aunque más de una vez me dijo yo no soy maestro de nadie. Así
even
que
if he
olvídese.
told me I'm not the master of anyone,
Enrique Buenaventura.
Enrique Buenaventura.
Nuestra diferencia con ese otro maestro colombiano era que él sí postulaba un método
Our difference with these two masters from Colombia are that they would postulate a method
de la creación colectiva
of the collective creation,
y más bien Santiago pensaba que era una actitud.
while Santiago felt that it was an attitude.
Yo pienso que es una manera de recoger la diversidad de pensamientos.
I think that it is a way of putting together the different thoughts, the diversity of thinking.
Y fue necesaria en un momento.
And it was necessary in a moment.
Yo pienso que ahora, por ejemplo,
I think that now, for example,
la creación colectiva ha dado autores como La Candelaria.
the collective creation has also authors, like in La Candelaria.
Pero autores y autoras, bien dicho,
Authors, female and male,
que escriben para el espacio y desde el espacio.
that write in the space and from the space.
Que es diferente escribir en tu gabinete y ir a pelear o que te respeten la coma, el punto y la letra.
And it is very different than writing in your office and to go and fight because of the comma and the full stop.
Eso sería para mí el marco que nos reúne.
I think that this is the frame that puts us together,
Y cuando nos conocimos
and when we met each other
con La Candelaria,
with La Candelaria,
con el TEC,
with the tech,
por hablar de los grupos colombianos, con grupos chilenos como la LEG, por ejemplo,
and also talking about the groups from Colombia, but also the groups from Chile,
Macunaíma de Brasil,
Macunaíma from Brazil,
el Galpón, el Circular de Montevideo,
Galpón Circular from Montevideo.
etcétera, todo un panorama de grupos
It is all a landscape of groups
que sin conocernos estábamos latiendo.
that even if we did not know each other, we were beating together.
En el año 78,
In 1978,
en Ayacucho,
in Ayacucho,
se da un encuentro sin precedentes también,
there was a meeting which had never happened before
sin precedentes en el Cono Sur, en América Latina.
in Latin America.
Ya había habido acá en Belgrado el primer evento.
It had happened here in Europe, in Belgrade.
Fue la presencia polémica de Lodi y de Eugenio.
It was the polemic presence of our theater then.
Y lo remarco porque desde esa polémica, desde no entender,
And I underline it because from this polemic, from the not understanding
qué hacían en el Perú,
what they were doing in Peru,
aquí habían llegado estos nuevos conquistadores blancos y grandazos,
these new revolutionaries, the high and white,
frente a nosotros que pensábamos que teníamos muy claro lo que queríamos decir.
when we thought that we had very clear what we wanted to say.
Y sentíamos mucha envidia también, envidia,
And we felt a lot of envy also,
porque el Odin lograba capturar la atención
because Odin managed to capture the attention
mediante los trueques.
during the barters,
Y tenían una técnica
and they had a technique
que permitía ese encuentro.
that allowed this meeting,
Entiendo la técnica como el saber cómo.
which and I mean technique as the know-how.
Ellos sabían cómo.
They knew how.
Nosotros lo teníamos en la cabeza, pero no había pasado.
We had it in our head, but it hadn't gone down.
Yo creo que ese fue el gran aporte para pensar desde otro lugar
This was a great contribution to think from another place
y consolidar también el trabajo sobre todo de los actores.
and to consolidate all the actors together.
Hoy, perdón, perdón.
I will jump to a completely different reality. I'll jump to Europe. And I will ask George to talk of what you think is characteristic of the theatre group, like the Soleil is.
Yes. Okay, because you have played today and you translate all the tribute, so I will try to speak English by my way. And you can be quiet. Okay? If I did you so, since first I am very honored. First, I am very honored to be in front of such a sommity of knowledge of theater in the world. I thank you both you to Odin Theatre to invite me, and Ariane Mushkin is actually rehearsing his new play with the group, the entire group of Théâtre du Soleil, a lot of people, 80%, and they work the subject, the theme of the new show play. I don't know, I just see a little bit of rehearsing. I participated to the last show of Ariane and also the last creation of Théâtre du Soleil with an American director whose name is Richard Nelson, about the story of Konstantin Stanislavski in tour in 1933 in Chicago during the Bolshevik war in Moscow. But come back to the creation of Ariane. She's in the prepared 3 plays to understand why Putin come in Ukraine. Okay, it's clear? Okay. So, it's so rich what I heard here, that so many things in my mind, and I will try to be concrete. If I go somewhere, you tell me, George, come back. Okay? And Patricia talk about, and Mr. Miguel, the commitment, politic in theater, and in their continent, in America, but in America, because I think that there is also in the North actresses and actors who try to make group. It's not really easy to do this, and I feel a little bit privileged to be an actor in France, because we have a Ministry of Culture and we have a statue, a statue as actor, and I travel a lot because of theater, and I meet a lot of actors and directors who has to work somewhere to do theater. Me, I just have to create in group. So I choose to be in group. Why? Because when I was a young boy, adolescent, I was down in the society from a poor family, but I came in Théâtre du Soleil and I saw L'Âge d'Or, and this in this time, gave me force to go on for my life. Not to be an actor, but this I discovered that I was not alone to think this, to don't feel well in this society. And this gave me, comment on dit,
it gave me wings.
wings. And later, I meet Ariane as a group, and I was, by chance, invited to play in Théâtre du Soleil when Ariane decided to put on stage a 3 play of Shakespeare to understand, to talk about our work, and also to understand how we can play without to be realistic today, to prepare ourselves for a new project to come more in our contemporary society, as we have done after with the story of Cambodia, India, and I'm sorry, so I want to say this, that Théâtre du Soleil is politique, really. The commitment of Théâtre du Soleil is politique. It's not this, we have not the killer narco-trafficant, we have not the military from extreme right, but sometimes we take care of what's happened with, we have our own cops who do things like that. When, for example, we speak about religion, radical religion, yes, today. But commitment of Théâtre du Soleil is politic, but no propaganda. You understand? Not propaganda. It's, the text is theatrical. And we are engaged theatrically, okay? And sure, it's more comfortable to have to talk about but we are privileged, but it's a little bit the same. We try to, we are also in this tradition of Jean Villard with public service public. And the public who come in Théâtre du Soleil is all the public. And they come now, and our responsibility as actors is to break their heart, that they go outside of what they know, and just to, because for me, theater is not it's not a show, it's a link to be all together. And you come and with somebody you don't like, you know, and but in the play you can see that you, I'm sorry I talk to you as if you are children, but it's a good metaphor. It's strange because she loved from the same thing, she cried from the same thing, so she's not so different than me. And for me, theater is this, that's this. And as an actor, it's my job to do this. And even if I play with a second of Shakespeare or the King Sihanouk in the tragedy of Cambodia, do I have answer to the question? So what's the good? When when I came in Théâtre du Soleil, we meet because I want to leave the society. But I was not the seul, the only one. I meet other people like me in the group. And we were 19 nationalities when I came in. Now there is more, and also religion. So I discovered the world, you know, and theater is society of the world. And so Asil Rais was Hindu Muslim. Nirupaman Nityanandan was from India, from I don't remember in English, Chennai. Paul Belub was a Jew from New York. Mahmoud Said was Tunisian. There was a Cambodian. There was a man from south of France. A man from Brittany. You know, several Aryan with origin from Russia. And we talk all together. We exchange. We learn the culture of the other. And for this we sing when we do fiesta. Some come with songs in Brazilian or in Urdu or in klezmer music, and also the music was present. And so when the audience come in Théâtre du Soleil, we do all for they feel at home. And then we do all things in this time. And they go on still now. We actors, when we play, we come later, we do the sandwiches, the food for 500 persons, the tea, all this. And when we create, we do the clothes, we do the props, we do. Il n'y a pas de femme de ménage, comme on dit. So we do the toilet for audience. And when I played Richard II, I decided, because I played the king, to make the toilet alone for the audience. And during 2 years I've done this. And it was strong, because when I can see if we play well. Because when the toilet was not dirty, we don't play very well, because when it was really dirty, that's people let them go. We have a good play. But I'm sorry for the joke, but it's the reality of life. I'm talking to you as an actor, but I am after I leave one time. I leave Théâtre du Soleil. It was hard to leave my. It's not a family, but it's a kind of family. It's a lot of love. Of fight, so of jealousies, of its life, and of love. And to say, I go, wow, it's not easy. And because I did it in, like other, you cannot imagine how many people pass through Théâtre du Soleil. A lot. And I don't want to talk about me, but I represent those people. There is a lot of people who are like me. And I lived it was too much, because we work a lot, since 9 o'clock in the morning to when it's finished. It can be at 12 in the night. And we have 2 days off, so sometime we need to have life, something else, And but when so after I asked me how I go on. I wanted to meet other theater, other writers, and I translate a lot. I create 2 or 3 groups in Cambodia, in Malaya, in Mali, in Africa, and in the USA also. I'm the godfather of a big group, actors gangs from Tim Robbins, with a group like Théâtre du Soleil, who try to. It's not easy to be a group, collective group, since now 20 years. Also a group in south of France, the Pays Basque, Petit Théâtre de Pain. Now they are 40 years old. It's strong people who go on to go to the audience, all the women of the group pass their permission for the drugs. They know to make things in the drugs, and also they are beautiful actresses on stage. And they play outside. I told them, play theater everywhere, outside, inside, there. Don't let the institution make you decide for you. So, you understand that for me, for us, Théâtre du Soleil, it's a kind of resistance. But we are not in the same situation but not yet. With the violence of the society, and the modern and comfortable society are very violent also, but by behind. And so I would like to, I learn this gives me force for the life, and this is very, and also as audience theater, Théâtre du Soleil need tools as a form of theater, but not to only propose a form like cappuccino, Bharatanatyam, but to help us, and then after to find the relation, because interiority, human truth, and how to transpose this truth by the body, so these tools. And when you go in the French institution of theater today, in the big institution like the big theater, Théâtre National, National Theatre, often there is a lot of national school also, but often, personally, I heard that often it's always the same actor who teach. They have the same voice, they have the same, because the teachers are not in school talking about the art. They're talking about the métier, the career. It's not the same. So, sure that each actor would like to be in a big movie, you understand what I mean? And I have some students who are big stars in cinema, but they go on in theater, like Tim Robbins with Actors Gang, Simon Abkarian, and so there is a lot of theater in the world, a lot. And I was j'étais very sensible of, I tell me, my God, I am really privileged so how we can completely help all together, because the exchange gives forces, and it's a question I ask me, and I have been in your country, not your country, but in the continent. I work in Chile. I meet groups in Chile, and we have also a big story with refugees from the time of dictator in Chile and also Argentina. In Théâtre du Soleil, for example, comme on dit, le veilleur de nuit, the guardian of the night of Théâtre du Soleil, when I was 25 years old, was Cacho. Cacho was his name, high name, but he was one of the chief of the Luta Armada de Argentine contra la dictatura. And he escaped, and he was our guardian of
night guard,
but he was an intellectual, and he stayed with us. He has little clothes like that, little man, and sometimes I ask him, in the night he was always reading things, and we have Théâtre du Soleil, Ariane, catch everybody in life, and she's I'm very proud to have been chosen by her. You know, she told me when I met her, you want to play? Go. You have a white page? Paint. I was like that. She told me, come with you are afraid, come with me. And this even because when I live because the problem is so in which country you have to everything is expensive. You have house, food, everything. So even in poor country. So I work as an actor in institution. It's the reason why I know about what I am talking, because I was in it. When you say you work with directors who are named by the state, and they have the power now to choose who theater, and some of them are good directors, but they only take care of themselves. Only take care of themselves, except some big one. And I play with different artists, and you are in a big show, people love you, you have good press, you have good money, you have all this, and then nothing. You come by the entrance of actors, and you go by the exit of actors, and after you go in the bar. So I go back to Théâtre du Soleil after an absence of 30 years. And oh my God, I speak too much. So, okay, and so I needed to see, to meet again this force, and I was with them, but now I am a little bit tired, so I said to Ariana, I take the time, I will be in the next one. So I'm sorry, there's so many things to say, but I shut my mouth now.
So I will ask Eugenio. Now we've heard Miguel and Georges speak about May '68. Bigot de Théâtre was founded in '64. So where does it come from? We've also heard them say we are not just actors, we are also those who produce, who are in the offices, who clean the toilets. And then we've heard a little bit of the schooling, or how one passes on to the new people coming into the group. So these are also a problematic of the group theatre.
Miguel is right, because it's impossible to understand group theatre without taking history into consideration. And in Europe, history explains very well what theatre is. Theatre was created professionally in 1545. We were the first contract. The first people gathered together, actors, and they had a very clear aim to earn money. This was the invention of something extraordinary, the ticket. Until that moment, there were messiahs, bishops, aristocrats, rich people, who were engaging people to act. But the moment of freedom for theatre in our continent was when the group gathered together, and with the help of a small amount of money, they were able to attract big masses. And then, while before theatrical manifestations were open in the streets, when bishops were making religious mysteries, or when rich people were doing a feast, professional theatre obliged actors to play in closed spaces. These closed spaces had only one aim, a financial one, to make actors live. And we have to come until the 20th century, before a man called Stanislavski says, no, but theatre is not just a profession, when you entertain people. Theater is an art. The actor is an artist. There is something which is, yeah. And this means that in Europe, we very clearly buildings which today are recognized as a cultural activity, and they receive money from the state. This is the institution, or if you want, as I call it, the market, which is not negative. The market is the place of negotiations. So, this is in Europe. In '68, until before, you had only two huge cultures, theatrical cultures. The professional ones, which they could work for culture purpose, but most of all in order to get money and earn. And then you have the amateur. Amateur has been very important in European theater history. And when audience theater began as an amateur, because the word group didn't exist. When the word group begins to be used, became used after '68 in the '70s. Even Living Theater called itself theater. We also ourselves considered audience theater. But we were outside the institution. So today, when I speak about third theater, I speak of all activities outside of what is an institution recognized by the state as important. For me, the third theater, or the group theater, or a project situation. Young people or old people gathering together, making performances, and then disbanding. But outside what is this very efficient, effective culture, which is the institution theater, commercial or cultural, but the fact is commercial is not negative, because from a professional point of view, commercial theaters are much better than many so-called cultural theater. But for me, a group is everything which is gathering outside the walls of the institutionalized dynamics and system. This is for me. When in '68 came a generation all over the world who want to change or themselves or the society, then there was also something which was really similar to the Dinost, to the mentality and the motivation which engaged the generation of Stanislavski, Lev, Komishevskaya, and then their young actor Vatangov, Miguel, all of them were giving to the profession, to this profession, another, I would say, almost a metaphysics, another value, which we find again in the generation which came after '68. And this is what, in reality, the Living Theater was showing us. When I began with the Living Theater, was one of the point of reference, because they were giving to the profession a so-called, I don't call it metaphysics, something which went beyond the fact of doing just culture and giving your somebody. So, and this is the situation for Latin America. When in the 50s, from the university, when there was the university theater, from the university theater springs the first elements which in the 60s, at the end of the 60s and the beginning of the 70s, becomes this very powerful, I would say, a very original theatrical culture in Latin America. So this is for me a theater group. The theater group is something always lasts in time because they want to get together from one another, or just because circumstances put them together, but they are outside, this is how to say, a sort of injustice in Europe, because in Europe we have subventions. There, in their continent, they don't have subventions automatically. There are countries which are very, I have to say, very supportive. Colombia is one of them, for instance. But in most of the continent, there is no Ministry of Culture which is supporting institutionalized theater. It doesn't exist. So in Europe, I would say, the theater group or group activity is anything which is in a condition of injustice, economic injustice, in relation to the Ministry of Culture, which is giving.
Patricia, you said before that you are an artist and an activist. Because I know that you are also a poet. And I know that every time that we speak about theater, you always go back to the reference of what is poetic. It's like a need you have that theater should have poetry. Where is the poetry in group theater?
La poesía es uno de los propósitos, yo creo que de todas las artes.
I think that poetry is one of the propositions of all the arts.
La función poética no es exclusiva de los poetas.
The poetry is not exclusive to poets.
La búsqueda del arte, en la creación artística, tiene que haber poesía o no hay arte.
In the research of art, there has to be poetry, otherwise it's not art.
Pero voy a hablar un poquito como activista.
But I'm going to speak a little bit as activist.
Para decir algo distinto a lo que dijo Miguel.
To say something which is different from what Miguel said.
Yo sí creo que tenemos muchas cosas para exportar en América Latina.
I think we have a lot of things to export from Latin America.
No la revolución socialista de 1968.
Not the socialist revolution from 1978.
Sino lo que hay por dentro, el motor que hace que un pueblo quiera cambiar.
But what we have within, the motor, that means that a people would want to change.
Se llama la utopía.
Which is called the utopia.
La utopía es una poesía.
The utopia is a poetry.
Entonces, también, por ejemplo, con la Amazonía.
Also with the Amazonia,
nosotros
we
regalamos desde la Amazonía oxígeno para el mundo.
We are giving oxygen to the world from the Amazonia.
El oxígeno, la Amazonía es el pulmón de la humanidad.
The Amazonia is the lung of humanity.
Con el oxígeno que da la Amazonía pagamos todas las chimeneas prendidas en los inviernos de Europa.
With the oxygen that we get from the Amazonia, we're paying for all the chimneys which are set up in Europe.
Es un costo muy alto.
It's a very high price.
Entonces yo sí creo que hay que exportar.
So I think that we have to export
otro tipo de revolución.
Another kind of revolution.
Una revolución que defienda a la humanidad.
A revolution that should defend humanity.
La humanidad está en peligro entre dos horrores.
Humanity is in a danger between two horrors.
Uno, las guerras que están aquí a la vuelta.
One are the wars that are here right beside us.
Y que son una amenaza atómica, además.
And that they are also an atomic menace.
Y la otra amenaza es la crisis climática. Ya no es el cambio climático, es la crisis climática.
And the other is the climatic crisis, not change. Crisis.
Tenemos que estar del mismo lado, Europa y América Latina.
So we have to be on the same side, Europe and Latin America.
Defender la humanidad
To defend humanity
y defender la naturaleza.
and to defend nature.
Y por dentro, lo que mueve a un grupo es la utopía.
And from inside, what moves a group is utopia.
No es montar un espectáculo,
It's not putting up a performance.
no es ganar dinero,
It's not to earn money.
y no es ganar fama.
And it's not to become famous.
Claro que nos importa poder sobrevivir con el dinero
Of course, we have to be able to survive with money,
y que ojalá salgan los periódicos lo que hacemos
and
también.
that maybe it should come out in the newspapers what we're doing.
Pero la finalidad es mucho más allá.
But the finality is much beyond.
O si no, no nos levantaríamos de la cama.
Otherwise, we wouldn't get up from the bed.
Entonces la pregunta, ¿qué es lo que mueve a una gente que está 60 años en un grupo, 50 años en un grupo? Tiene que ser algo que les atraviese el alma.
So the question of what manages to keep a group that has 60 years or 50 years, it has to be something that goes right through your soul.
Yo creo que toda obra de teatro es una visión del mundo.
I think that every piece of theatre is a vision of the world.
No sé si será demasiado pretencioso,
I don't know if it would be too pretentious,
pero yo sigo con la ilusión
but I keep on with the illusion
de que con cada obra de teatro que hacemos,
that with each piece of theatre that we do,
cambiamos el mundo.
we change the world. Well, that was quite a conclusion. So I invite you not to make questions now, because I think we're... Are you desperate for a question? I heard a no.
Yo quiero decir algo.
To use the courses, the lunches, the suppers, to go and also approach. And you can always use some of us to translate if you need.
¿Puedo decir algo?
De ir a hablar directamente, ¿tú quieres decir algo? Well, see, it's very effective. Okay, everybody wants to talk.
Sí, yo quiero decir que estoy de acuerdo con Patricia.
I agree with Patricia.
Yo inicié diciendo que sentía que simplificaba nuestra realidad.
Que simplificaba.
Nuestra realidad como
I was talking about the fact that one is simplifying our reality.
algunas miradas que nos veían como exportador de revoluciones,
That saw us as those who bring a revolution,
como exotismo,
as
cultural.
exotism, cultural exotism.
Y eso yo creo que es algo que es importante porque a veces yo he escuchado que para mucha gente de América Latina es el realismo mágico.
And I think it is important to say, because I have heard a lot of people in Latin America thinking about the magical realism,
Desde una lectura simplificadora de todas las posibilidades de la literatura latinoamericana, ¿no?
which is like a simplified reading of all the literature in Latin America.
Pero creo que el meollo de esta reunión gira en torno a los grupos.
But I think that the theme of this meeting is about the groups.
Yo también me siento privilegiado de ser de un grupo,
I am also privileged because I'm in a group.
aunque mi grupo no tenga los fondos para crear,
Even if we do not have the funds,
los fondos que mereceríamos posiblemente.
the funds that we would merit, that would be,
Quienes han visto nuestros espectáculos últimamente
those who have seen our performances lately,
pueden ver que lo hacemos con material descartado.
you know that we do it with rubbish material,
Con objetos encontrados.
with the objects that we have found.
Muchas veces yo he hecho la broma de que para hacer teatro pobre en Europa se necesita mucho dinero.
I've often made the joke that to do poor theatre in Europe you have to have a lot of money.
Me parece que una clave de nuestro trabajo
And I think that a key of our work
es unir el cuerpo fisiológico
is to put together the physiological body
al cuerpo social.
to the social body.
Pienso que ahí hay un impulso de creación,
I
de
think that there
fortaleza
is a pulsation for the creation
y de resistencia,
and of resistance.
como por ejemplo la fiesta, ¿no?
Like, for example, the feast.
La fiesta y la lucha.
The feast and the struggle.
De eso hablaremos mañana.
Of this we will talk tomorrow. What you will do first?
Just one thing. Ariane created the Théâtre du Soleil en 1964.
That Ariane created Théâtre du Soleil in 1964, like you, like Odin Theatre.
I was 9. You are...
Good year.
Huh?
A good year.
I think it was wine.
For wine too.
Wine.
No.
No, I don't. A lot of things to say, but I have to talk after tomorrow. If you want to come back.
Anybody desperate to say something?
Una pregunta.
A question?
En estos grupos grandes,
In these big groups,
donde la utopía era tan fuerte,
where the utopia was so strong,
¿cuál es la utopía de las nuevas generaciones?
what is the utopia of the young generations?
Marco Luciano. Se tu sei la nuova generazione di davanti, qual è la tua utopia?
Marco Luciano, if you're the new generation, come and talk about your utopia.
A voce alta. Ma la mia utopia è che questo possa continuare.
Tu puoi parlare un'altra lingua? No.
Preferirei di no. Come dice Bartley prima.
This can continue.
Chinese.
Ho tradotto.
Perché questo rappresenta una lotta al sistema di produzione, dell'iperproduzione, al consumismo culturale.
Because this is a struggle against the institution, the cultural institution system.
Perché il teatro di gruppo
Because a group theatre
è di per sé un'utopia.
is in itself a utopia.
Utopia è una parola che io non amo molto.
Utopia is a word I don't love much.
Perché, no, come diceva Galeano, è quella cosa che è come l'orizzonte, tu cammini e lei si allontana.
Because it is like that thing which you see in the distance and you walk towards it and it goes further away.
A me piacerebbe che restassimo nel presente.
I'd like to be in the present.
Sopra l'ultima colonna c'è una frase di Eugenio
On the last column upstairs there's a sentence by Eugenio
che dice: un attore non cammina,
that says an actor doesn't walk,
un attore compie un passo dopo l'altro.
an actor does one step after the other.
E questo è quello che dobbiamo fare noi.
And this is what we have to do.
Gregorio, you belong to the younger generation. Yeah. What is your utopia?
Qual è la mia utopia? Posso parlare italiano? Sì, sono d'accordo con Marco di mantenere viva questa logica.
Gregorio, se parli spagnolo...
Parlo spagnolo, ok.
Sí.
Entonces, estoy de acuerdo con Marco de intentar mantener viva este tipo de encuentro.
I agree with Marco that we have to keep alive this kind of meeting.
Pero también tenemos que ver en qué manera hacemos entrar a este tipo de encuentro gente que no la piensa como nosotros, no tiene ni idea de lo que estamos haciendo.
But I also wonder how we can get people that don't usually come to this kind of meeting and that have no idea about what we're doing.
Por ejemplo, hablamos hoy con, ¿dónde está? Con Selene, que hablamos de los niños, ¿no? Acabamos de terminar un encuentro nosotros donde había 7 niños paseando entre nosotros, paseando delante de Eugenio cuando estaba dando su clase magistral.
Today we were talking with Selena about the children. There were 7 children that were going by while one was doing the master class.
Porque también los niños son parte de nuestra comunidad.
Because
La
children
mamá lo
are
sabe
also
mucho mejor que
part of
nosotros.
our community.
Y yo imagino otro día el encuentro que podemos hacer espectáculos sobre la migración para policías que trabajan en la frontera, para gente que trabaja en policía que trabaja en la frontera.
I thought we could also do performances for the police that works on the borders,
Llegar a la otra parte
to look on the other side.
de las personas que quizá son de verdad muy distintas de nosotros, y esa diversidad también hay
To
que
be able to
conquistarla.
look at the people that are maybe very different from us, to look at this difference,
Para conquistarla, entre comillas,
to be able to conquer them
o negociar con ellos. o
or
con ellos.
negotiate with them.
Sì, un attimo. Luca Bonella.
Dove sei?
Puoi seguire via.
La parola che per me è complicata,
For me it is a complicated word,
perché sì, sembra che riguardi qualcosa che più ti avvicini più si allontana, come diceva Marco.
because it seems to be like something that the more you try to go closer, the more it goes farther away, as Marco was saying.
Però se parliamo di teatro di gruppo
But if we're speaking of group theatre
e non di massimi sistemi,
and not of big systems,
posso percepire alcune volte, come ultimamente,
I can perceive sometimes, like lately,
che i conflitti
that the conflicts
che ci sono e sono sempre latenti
that are there and they're always around
tra le persone che si trovano a lavorare insieme e a convivere nella pratica delle idee,
that find themselves working together and that are living together in the practice of the ideas
possono essere messi da parte
can be put aside
in virtù di una necessità
in virtue of the necessity
che è quella di godere di un lavoro insieme, godere della possibilità di lavorare e condividere il lavoro.
that is of having pleasure in working together, in sharing a work together.
E mi sembra che più fuori sembrano esserci cattive avvisaglie,
And that it seems that outside there are dark symptoms.
più sento che c'è la necessità di questo tipo di incontri,
And that more there are these dark symptoms outside and more there is the necessity of this kind of meeting.
e la voglia di creare un progetto che possa essere inclusivo.
And the desire to create a project that could be inclusive.
Inclusivo rispetto comunque a una specificità, perché questo è un ambiente piuttosto specifico.
Inclusive in relation to a certain specificity, because this is a specific environment.
Che specifico lo sottolineo perché è importante la possibilità che c'è attraverso il teatro di gruppo di non omologarsi.
Because we have the need to not be homologated.
Un attimo, perché Nora pidió sobre la utopía.
Nora asked about the utopia.
For those coming after us. So, no? So I understood. So this is the next generation. I mean, so I would like to hear utopia. Emilio.
Sì. Allora, io penso che, scusa, parlo anche italiano, penso che l'utopia è costruire un'utopia, che è praticamente l'opposto. No?
I think that the utopia is to build a utopia, which is the opposite.
Io penso che se noi siamo qua è perché siamo stati toccati in qualche maniera.
I think that if we are here it's because we have been touched in some way.
L'utopia è riuscire a toccare molto di più, molte altre persone, naturalmente come diceva Eugenio.
It is the possibility of touching many more people, like Eugenio was saying.
Come dicevano già i miei compagni. Sì, appunto, come stavo dicendo già i miei compagni, è riuscire ad accendere il nome.
Which is to be able to turn on
innumerevoli fuochi.
Many different fires.
Quindi università, bambini, è costruire un sistema di scambi.
University children, to be able to build a system of exchange
che possa operare in una maniera molto più vasta.
That can operate in a bigger way.
E quindi far sì che tante persone che vorrebbero interessarsi di arte
and so make that many people that would like to be interested in art,
e in particolare di teatro,
and in particular of theater,
possono trovare lo sbocco alle proprie emozioni.
could be able to find an outcome for their emotions, feelings.
Praticando il nostro tipo di teatro anche in maniera differente e trovando quello che stanno cercando.
Practicing a way of making theatre in a different way and find what they were searching for.
Chris,
very short. For me, in my work with community, with different age groups, in all of the curation work, the dream is the same as it was in the Paris Commune in 1939 in Spain, in 1968, and today in 2024. Self-managed micro-units, where I and my presence is important. The massification, the accumulation of wealth, the accumulation of power is getting larger and larger, and the dream remains the same. Let's bring it down small. Let's us get together. Let's us try to find a way. An exemplary model of how a society could function. And this dream exists today in the creative, so-called creative industries. All of these little groups of game makers and designers and thinkers and ecological inventors, they want to work in small units. They don't want to be part of IBM or Apple. They want to work in their way. And this is the same motivation that we all had when we started our group here, to be in control of our own lives. This is not utopia. Utopia means you'll never get there. It's a dream, it's a vision, but we can get there.
Sí, yo quiero dar un ejemplo de utopía.
I want to give an example of utopia.
Un grupo que es sacado de su lugar después de 60 años.
a group that has that was taken away from the place where they were in 68 years.
Que es capaz de repuntarse.
And it is just being refunded.
Y que ahora es el grupo más joven de todos los grupos que estamos acá.
And now is the youngest group of all of us right here.
Porque tiene 2 años.
Because it's an utopia.
Esa es una utopía.
This is a utopia.
Preguntas que deja cada uno cuando termina.
The question that one has every time that they finish.
Son una utopía. Son una utopía.
Okay. It's when I was young, I saw Hamlet on stage, as a lot of people have saw this play, and it was Patricia Ariza, the director. I was young, and when I have the feeling that I believe it was Hamlet. So I think about how many generations of people hear these words since Shakespeare, as a contemporary writer, wrote this text. And for me, this link with other generations before me give me force, and I was not anymore afraid to die because of this link. And for me, theater, I'm completely okay with the definition of utopia. For me, utopia is also something concrete, like poesy, it's concrete. But religare, in Latin, religare, link, theater is a link, religare, and when we opened the conference, I was sitting to see the Odin theater new generation playing the play for big children, and I saw on the wall of the biblioteca something, religion et bonheur artibus. So I asked me what's mean, because the religion with art, you know, the dogma with art, I feel that religare with theater is more concrete than the dogma of what is good, what is bad, but the theater is the light and the shadow of humanity. And this make people, give force to people, because we are all together. Even, and also the utopia is in the fight of each day to create theater. That's it. Only, and we don't know what will happen. And so you ask me, I think Théâtre du Soleil, Marianne Mushkin is an utopia. She is an utopia. She always goes on.
Why does utopia have to be abstract? And why does it have to be huge? Utopia can be the achievement of the aspiration. Utopia is the existence of the aspiration. That's why we do theatre every day. To create something that might be that fulfillment which the theatre can give, the hope that theatre can give, the faith that theatre can give, the transformation of life that theatre can give. This is all utopia, because utopia is simply a better vision than the horrible one. As simple and as concrete as that. And that is why Ariane Mushkin is a utopia. She even did a production of Utopia, do you remember? And that was a production that was done with her entire heart and spirit and soul and intelligence and strength with the Théâtre du Soleil. And that heart and soul and strength hit the audience. They all left lifted. That's utopia. And Eugenio, sometimes yours is utopia.
And you, we are 280 citizens of Argentina.
Absolutely.
I can say one. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm the younger generation. I work for my friends, you know. I have one friend, she, you know, is very skillful, but she can't believe in something. So I work for that.
To help them perhaps to believe.
Yeah.
Because what is life without believing something? It has to be necessarily religious.
Also, I remember when we rode through Holstebro, you know, you could invite someone to come and see the performance, and they would come.
Can I be very concrete and say it's supper time?
Exactly.